Good morning, my noble knights. It is I, Blaze Templar, and today I'd like to talk about a different game than I normally do, and that's Heroes of the Storm. As it is celebrating its second year anniversary, I thought this was a great time to do this, and how better than to throw out an idea for a potential hero. And as you can see on the screen, that hero, well, in this case villain, is Arcturus Mengsk. Now, I'm not going to go into his full history, but needless to say, he is a StarCraft hero, or again, villain. He's a StarCraft character who is known as a tyrant, as the Emperor of the Terran Dominion, a lot of other things, traitor, willing to do whatever it takes to rule. But, so we're going to talk about kind of the idea I had building this concept. It's not really obviously a hero for obvious reasons, but this is how I think he might work in Heroes of the Storm. So, let's get started, shall we? So, Arcturus Mengsk, I wanted him to be very focused on minion control, as Arcturus Mengsk kind of sees combat as beneath him. He's never shown the capability of fighting. I think he has like a pistol, and that's about it. But that being said, Arcturus Mengsk would be a very focused on lane pushing and minion control to gain an inherent advantage through minions, mercenaries, etc., and showing a disregard for other life, shall we say. There are a few feats and abilities I gave him that would help him with combat for helping allies, but by and large, he wouldn't really pay much attention to allies. Now, his abilities are his Q, which would be Side Disruptor. In this particular, he'd be able to place a Side Disruptor in any lane that he can actually see, of course. A Side Disruptor would reduce the speed of mercenaries and minions around the disruptor. It can be destroyed, but will last until destroyed. Furthermore, it counts as Arcturus Mengsk actually in that lane, so it allows him to help power up his own team, make his minions stronger than his opponents, and that's something you're going to see a lot of. His W would be a minion reinforcement, where he's essentially throwing more minions at the opposing team by reinforcing a lane or pushing a lane that's on its back foot. And so that would be his W. Ever Watching would be an interesting ability for Arcturus Mengsk. His E, which would basically allow his minions and mercenaries to act as detectors. So he'd be really good against heroes like Nova, etc. Now, here's the thing. Those detectors wouldn't be able to work unless a hero's there. So, it only helps the nearby heroes. It doesn't help anybody else. So it's an unusual form of detection, but it's a form of detection. Next is his Hybrid Rampage, as one of his two heroics. This would basically be him summoning one of the hybrids he helped build, and that hybrid would go on a rampage, completely uncontrolled, and attack the enemy team just constantly until it dies. The other would be the Dominion Ghost, more of a tactical choice, and really the best way for Arcturus Mengsk to help his team out, as it does have the EMP launcher, which would decloak nearby enemy fighters for a short period of time, drain their mana by 5%, and then he can also drop tac nukes on structures, which would do heavy damage to the structures, not so much to heroes or whatever else. It's basically just to knock out structures, again, going for the entire, hey, I am going to wave push, I am going to wave clear, and I am going to push your core. Your team will have to deal with my servants. His abilities would focus around augmenting this, or specializing each of his talents outside of his E, which is kind of just a handy universal talent. But that's kind of what I had for an idea for Arcturus Mengsk, where he'd have talents like Dominion March, Imperial Shield, Emperor's Wrath, Traitor, which whenever an ally dies, you'd increase your mana regen, kind of in the same vein as Sadism, except for mana. Minion Domination, Burn to Ashes. Those who know Arcturus Mengsk will recognize that quote. But regardless, that's kind of what I had an idea Is he perfect? No. But it's kind of the concept I had with him. He'd be a little bit further back, but he'd be focused around controlling squads of minions, reinforcing those squads, and as he got more and more advanced, he could be having a kind of global prison, similar to Abathur. Odds are he probably won't really show up much on the battlefield directly, although he may show up to clear out a few minions if necessary and then retreat back to the safety of um, like brush or back to wherever for some kind of defense, because he's not meant to be very strong on the direct line of fire. Very much a specialist hero. So yeah, that's Arcturus Mengsk, the idea I had for him, and I will leave it at that. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. And speaking of which, we'll be seeing a lot more of those, as I think I finally got OBS fixed. Anyway, later.